Okay, so if you look at the way English is the setup, you have got English paper 1. Okay, now for English paper 1, what you are going to have is you are going to have section A, and you have got also section B. Now for section A of English paper 1, you are going to have 6 questions. Out of these 6 questions, all of these, like the whole of paper 1, is on about composition. So you are going to have different questions. You can have a narration, a description, you can have an argumentative composition. At times, you are also going to find just a freestyle writing. For example, they just say, write about a traditional ceremony or something like that. In some, you are going to also have a letter, okay? And you are going to have another narration. So you have got two narrations in the paper 1. So one of these you are going to see, maybe the first question they can say write a story starting with. So they are going to give you the words that you are supposed to start with, or they are going to say write a story ending with. So they'll just give you the things that you should end with in that story. They have not given you the title, meaning that you need to look for the title yourself. And then in another narration, they are going to give you a title. Now this title they can give you can either be an idiom, a proverb, or just a sentence or a phrase, and then you start writing a story on that. And then section B, depending. So on section B you only have one question. So out of these 6 questions in section A, you only choose one question. That's the one you're going to write on. And then section B, the question is compulsory, so you don't choose, it's a must, you need to write it. So it can be an article, it can be a report, it can be a letter, it can be even a narration, it can be an expository composition, whatsoever that they bring. So section B depends with what they bring. Okay, now for English paper 2 is a structure. Paper 1 is composition. So in structure, we're going to have one section of summary, one section of rewrites, one section of just the structure, how to use those words we are learning, like articles, at, and, or, and how to use those things. So that is for paper 2, but for paper 1 it's only composition. That's why we need to understand composition writing. Okay, now we're going to start with composition writing, how to write a narrative composition or how to narrate. Now, just a narrative composition comes from the word narrate, and to narrate is to tell a story. Okay, is to tell a story. Now, there are some things that you need to do for you to make your narrative interesting. When you are telling a story, when you are telling someone a story, you need to make sure that as you are telling them that story, they should be interested. Okay, so you need to write something that is going to interest the people that are listening to that story, or the people that are getting that story. That's why you need to make sure that it is an interesting story. One thing that is very important is for you to know that the first cut is the deepest. So when you are writing this composition or a narration, make sure that the first words that you get to present, when someone just looks at, before even starting to read anything, when someone just looks at the title of your story, they should be interested in reading it to find out what is contained in that story. That is why we say the first cut is the deepest. So make sure that as you get to write this story, it is one very interesting. Okay, people should be interested in reading it. So even when they start reading it, they are able to apply it. Is making sense. They're able to visualize. And one as the other thing as you get to write this composition writing is they need to be connecting. Okay, when you write one paragraph, you write the next paragraph, they should be making sense. For example, let's say I'm writing this paragraph. A paragraph is a group of sentences, so I write this paragraph. When I'm done with this paragraph, I want to start another paragraph. I need to make sure that they are connecting with the other paragraph that I've written. Maybe, for example, this paragraph I'm talking about the time I was born and everything. In this other paragraph, I need to talk about the next thing that happened after my birth. Not in this paragraph which is following. I'm talking about my birth. The first paragraph, I'm talking about my death. So you can't die before being born. So you see, it should be connecting. That is one thing that you need to very much pay attention to the when you're writing a narrative composition. Okay. Now, a narrative composition follows a certain structure, and that is basically a structure of every other composition. And you need to make sure that you get to follow it when you want to write a good narrative composition. Now, what is the structure of a narrative composition? So the first thing first, you need to have a title. For every composition that you write, you need to have a title. Now, this title that you are putting should be eye-catching. Okay, it should be a high-catching title. When someone just reads the title, they should be interested in reading your composition. That's the meaning of being eye-catching. Okay, something that is interesting. You just think of something that is interesting. And how do you choose a title that is eye-catching? You are going to look at the audience, or who do you want to read your composition? Do you want students to read? Do you want people who have learned, people who are educated to read that composition? So depending on the kind of people that you are writing to, you need to write something that is interesting for such people, because what can be interesting to people who are sick might not be interesting to people who are healthy. What might be interesting to Christians might not be interesting to what? To Muslims. So you are going to also look at the kind of people that you are writing to for you to be able to choose a title that is interesting to such people. Now, since this we are writing it for an exam, make sure that you choose a title that is going to catch the eyes or the attention of the examiner, the one who is going to be marking your paper. Okay, so that is the first thing that you need to put down. A title. It should be very catching. Okay. For example, think of just something interesting. I can't regret that experience I had that time. Or it was my best experience ever. You see, just the title that you get to put in, someone gets interested. Okay, let me try to read. What was the best experience for this person? Alright, so they start to follow. Now, when you write the title, the next thing that you need to have is the introduction. Now, in the introduction, there are two methods that you can use for the introduction. You can start the introduction by starting from the beginning. You can either start with an encouragement, okay? In the introduction, you just start with an encouragement. For example, you can just start by saying the best kind of living a person can ever have is to get to appreciate everything that they have. How lucky are all they who do that? You've started. That's the introduction. Okay, with an encouragement or just any inspiration. The reason is in the introduction you want to draw the people's attention to your writing so that they will be more interested in your writing. And then you can also use a flashback mechanism. Okay, so in this one, the flashback, you've decided, of course, your title already. Maybe let's say you want to write about uh, on a sunny day. That's your title, on a sunny day. Now, You have already thought of how things are going to be able to move. On maybe on this sunny day, you were moving along the road, you met this person, you started talking, you started moving, chatting like that, and then you had to go back. But before you could go back home, rains started and you are all wet. So in the flashback mechanism, you are going to think of the last thing that happened, okay, to put in the introduction. For example, just start in the story. You just start in the introduction. It was really an interesting adventure. It was really an interesting adventure with my friends, and on no account can I forget that. So you've started with you just saying it was really an interesting adventure. Or you can point out to an event that happened at the end of your story. You can say, how I wish I had done better, but I cannot do anything since spilt milk is gone. So you have just said how I wish I'd done anything. Now, why do you wish? Okay, why do you wish? You have said things which happened at the end. The reason as to why you wish you had done something is because you didn't do anything. Now, because you've started with the end of the story, you start now after the introduction. Now you start explaining how why is it that you wish you had done something. Okay, for example, you just say, you start in the introduction, I wish I had studied, but alas, it is all gone. So you have started by saying, I wish I had studied. Now you start explaining what happened. Why is it that you wish you had studied? So after then, that's when now you go. You've started your introduction. You now go to the main body. Okay? In the main body now, you start explaining your points. Why is it that you wish you had done better? Okay, why is it that you started by encouraging? Why did you start encouraging people? What is the importance of that encouragement that you gave? Now, for a narration in the many body, it is very important one for you to use idioms. Okay, you use some idioms. You need to use some proverbs in your many body. You need to use also some direct speeches in your many body if you want to get it well. Direct speeches. You need also to use some vocabulary. Okay, so you use, in other words, you need to know some good words from a dictionary that you are able to use in your many body. You can use some idioms such as you can say a sheep in the harbor is safe, but that is not where a sheep is meant for. That is an idiom just meaning uh, a harbor is where a ship is kept. So a ship that has been kept is safe, but a ship isn't meant to be kept, it is meant to be used. So same with us. It is important for us what? To stay at home comfortably. But well, if you stay at home comfortably, nothing is going to come out that is good. So you need to go out there, you need to take risks in life. Okay, such proverbs and many more proverbs. Okay, we are going to look at more proverbs. We're going to understand a lot of proverbs. You can also use some proverbs. Now proverbs are just words of wisdom. You can use some of these proverbs in your writing. You can use the direct speech. Instead of you saying, Monsa said that I should go there, you say, come here, Mwanza said. That is a direct speech. You are going to write, come here. You are going to put in inverted commas. Okay? Come here, and then you say, Mwanza said. So these are very important in a narration. Very important. Very important. Okay? You also use some good vocabulary. Instead of you saying equal, okay? Let's say, uh, stealing is equal to killing someone. You say stealing is tantamount to killing someone. That is vocabulary. Instead of you saying it is strange that it's behaving like this, you say it is eerie that it is behaving like this. So that is just vocabulary. Okay? Just some big words. You use them, maybe five or three of them in your composition. All right. So there are a lot and a lot of more ways that you are able to use. Instead of you saying I was surprised, you can say I was baffled, or I was perplexed, or I was puzzled. So such words. Okay. Just to make sure that you are adding more light to your composition. And then after you've written everything now in the main body, this is where now you are telling the whole story. Now as you get to write your main body, don't just write one paragraph. In the main body, if you write one paragraph like that, you write one paragraph, divide them. In one paragraph, you bring out one point. Maybe you bring out the event when you were wet. In another paragraph, you bring out an event when now the rains were over, started going home. In another paragraph, bring out an event where now you reached home, you were trying maybe to clean yourself. So that is a many body. Don't use one paragraph. In a narrative composition, use as many paragraphs as possible. They are very important. Don't use only two paragraphs or three paragraphs. And then after then, now you can put your conclusion. Now, in your conclusion, you can end in so many ways. You can end by encouraging, okay? You can end by encouraging. For example, your story was uh, I wish I had done better. That was the title. I wish I had done better. In the conclusion, you can end by encouraging. This is what happened to me. I only wish you get to encourage whatsoever encouragement that you have for those people who are reading your story, so that they're able to learn something from what you've written. Okay? You can bring out a lesson. What lesson people are able to learn from your story. So in all of these, make sure that your writing is that interesting. It should be interesting to the people who are reading. All right. Do you have any question up to here before we go on? You have any question? Any question? It's okay. All right. Now let's just look at a very small sample of how we're able to write these narrations. So here is a story. Remember, the first thing that we said is you need to write the title. So we have got the title here. You've seen the title. It is not too late to mend. So at least the title should be eye-catching. So it should interest the people who are going to be reading it. Okay? So it should be an interesting title. It is not too late to mend. So that someone is going to be like reading your writing. Okay? It shouldn't be boring. Like what you've written should not be boring. That's why you choose a title that is interesting. Now, after you've written your title that is interesting, a title that is eye-catching, you are now going to go to the introduction. So look at this. There are many things that bamboozle me. You look at this, okay? What kind of introduction are we using? You are starting with more like an encouragement. Now, even in this encouragement, we have got some big words, okay? Like bamboozle. There are many things that bamboozle me. One which up to now has left me perplexed. You are using some big words. Man's desire for something always compels him to do all he can to achieve it. No one can shut your dreams unless you want to. Happy are they who aim for good and permit nothing to stand on their way for success. So you are more like trying to just get people to be aroused. They should have that anger to read more of your composition. Even if I've used some big words in this composition, still it is making sense. You are able to understand even if you don't know the meaning of these big words. Okay? And make sure that your grammar is correct, your punctuations are correct. Make sure that you put the commas on the right position. Make sure that you put the full stops on the right position. Okay? So this is the introduction. Now it is more like an encouragement. And then after the introduction, now you start speaking the story. Alright? You start speaking story. Yes. Yes. So now another thing that I didn't mention, when you are writing your composition,